Hi, my name is Savannah here with YOGATX, and I wanted to teach you guys how to breathe correctly because I've been seeing a lot of funky breathing lately in my own yoga classes, and I kind of just like to watch people breathe now because I like breath so much, so it's kind of weird, but it's cool. Before we get started talking about the right way to breathe, I want to cover the wrong way to breathe. So you might either be like, yeah, I totally breathe like that, or no, I'm already a professional at breathing. But essentially what I've been seeing in a lot of yoga classes or even walking around is what we call reverse breathing. And it's where your belly sucks in when you take an inhale. So it looks like this. You get a really big chest, the collarbones might raise a little bit, but the belly sucks back. And there's not a lot of room for the breath to go when the belly is sucking back, so it kind of just pops up towards the neck and it can feel a little tight when you breathe in. And then on the exhale, the reverse breath would look like pushing your belly out, so pushing the belly out when you breathe out. So I'll do a couple rounds of that just so you can see how not to breathe. The other way around would be, can we relax the belly when we breathe in? Notice how there's space for the breath to actually drop down. There's not a ton of movement in the collarbones. And when you exhale, instead of pushing the belly out, you would gently draw it back. So we'll use some tactile cues to get us into that rhythm of breathing. One of my favorite ways to get people out of reverse breathing is teaching them how to exhale correctly. So you'll go ahead and bring your two thumbs at the base of your navel and bring your pointer fingers down towards your pubic bone so you can really feel what's going on in your low abdomen. And you might even notice, oh, I'm still holding there, I'm still gripping subconsciously. So we'll go ahead and close the eyes and just take a moment to feel the skin underneath your hands and notice over the next couple breaths, could you feel as though the belly begins to relax and let go of any unconscious gripping or holding? I know a lot of us have been taught to suck our belly in as we walk because it'll develop our core, but that's just not how the core works. And your diaphragm, your breathing muscle, is actually the ceiling of your core. So if you don't have a correct breath, your core is kind of non-existent. And as the hands are resting on the low abdomen, we'll take a full exhale out. And when you exhale, could you feel the skin behind your fingers gently draw back? It's not forceful, just a progressive drawing back as you exhale. And as you breathe in, relax the belly and notice if you can fill the fingertips up with the breath. It might take a couple rounds. As you exhale, gently drawing back from the fingertips all the way up to the navel, full breath out. Then breathing in, relax the belly. Let the belly move out into the fingertips. And we'll take 3 more breaths like that. On that final exhale, we'll start to breathe in again. This time, if you feel like you can keep the belly relaxed as you breathe in, that's the first step of learning how to breathe correctly. It's, can you keep the belly relaxed and let the ribs expand? So it would look like this. Notice how the movement really gets emphasized around the low ribs. That's exactly where your diaphragm lives instead of up by the collarbones. And if you want to use a tactile cue to check, you can bring your thumbs to the back of the ribs and wrap the fingertips towards the front of the ribs. As you breathe in, try to expand the ribs east to west. As you exhale, you'll actually be using your obliques and your core to fully expel the breath out. So feel the ribs draw into center. We'll take a couple breaths like that. Belly stays relaxed. And a full exhale. It's kind of like emptying out a bucket before you fill it up again. And for a full yogic breath, you want to be able to hit all 3 parts of your torso with the breath. And the part that gets a little tricky is when you find yourself getting stuck only breathing into the chest, or only breathing into the belly, or only breathing into the middle. So we'll bring one hand on our chest, one hand on our low belly. Don't be afraid, you can put your fingers near your pubic bone. That's where your pelvic floor is. It's totally a part of your breath too. When you breathe in, belly stays relaxed. You're drawing the breath down to a low point in the rib cage to feel the ribs expand. Then you're starting your exhalation from the fingertips around the pubic bone. Gently hug in and up. When you get to the middle of the ribs, feel the obliques engage and contract the ribs fully. The next time you breathe in, let the breath drop down to a low point. Belly's relaxed. Ribs start to expand. You might even feel the upper back expand with the breath. And then a full breath out. Starting from the low belly, maybe you feel the hip points draw towards each other. Ribs contract towards each other. And then we'll take that into movement. So this is where you want the focus to be all on the breath, because if we take the focus and just put it on the movement, the breath's going to hit the back burner and we might accidentally fall into that reverse breathing pattern, especially if that's your autopilot of breath. So we'll come to our hands and knees. And you can always take up a little bit of a blanket or a towel to cushion the knees in case your knees don't like hitting the hard ground. And we're not going to do anything fancy. Just as you're here, we'll take a couple rounds of breath. The belly stays relaxed and the ribs grow wide with your inhale. We'll start the exhale here, and as the low belly begins to draw in, you'll finish the breath out, dropping the elbows down and bringing the hips back. Now I want you to start your inhale before you start the movement. So we'll begin breathing in here. And as you keep breathing in, roll back forward onto the weight of the hands. Exhale starts first, and then the movement. And we call this way of breathing the envelope breath. So we start the breath before the movement, and the breath might even end after the movement. Same way on the way back. And it really makes you slow down and think about how you're breathing, how you're moving, which hopefully we're doing in yoga anyways. We'll take 2 more rounds. Maybe you can feel that the exhale is slowly starting to lengthen over time. And the inhale, without trying to make it longer, just let it roll in, and you'll stop breathing in right before you feel like you're about to get tense. And exhale it all out again. Inhale back up. And you can either sit on your heels or on your ankles, but we're going to do a little test. Where is that breath hitting? So we'll close the eyes, bring the hands down to the low belly. And remember, a full yogic breath means we can breathe equally in all areas, but for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to practice breathing in each area individually. So just with the belly at first, as you breathe in, can it expand? And as you exhale, can the belly gently draw back? Taking all of your focus down to the point around your navel. And it's not a test where you get an A or B or fail. It's just a test to see, where do you feel the breath most? We'll move from the belly to the sides of the ribs, but go down towards the hips. So this is a special place in your body. It wraps all the way around the back, and it's where a lot of pain happens in the back, where the middle back meets the lower back. And one thing we can do about back pain is learn how to breathe better. Since the diaphragm is like a flipped up half balloon in your rib cage, whenever the diaphragm expands, everything that's attached to the diaphragm also moves. That's your hip flexors, it's your low back muscles, and it even has myofascial connections up towards the neck. So I'll bring the hands right around our low waist. And as you breathe in, just feel the breath move into the palms, maybe a little bit into the fingertips. We'll take 4 rounds together. Exhale all the way out. That's really the trick to get your inhale to be full again. If you start to notice your own breathing patterns here, after this next exhale, we'll move the hands up a little higher. So we'll go about 1 inch up. And then really try to get the thumbs towards the back. So remember what I was saying about breath and back pain? Well, about 60% of your lungs live in your back. So if you're only breathing forward and up, that's a lot of I don't know if this is a word, but I'm going to make it a word, spasmodic breathing, where only a group of muscles contract and relax. A lot of times it's our neck muscles that do that over time. We want the back to start to get that action of contract and relax. So with your thumbs hooking around the back, the middle of your ribs, could you feel the ribs expand back towards the wall behind you when you breathe in? Maybe yes, maybe no. Exhale out completely. And we'll take a couple more rounds. It's all practice. When I breathe into my back, I can actually feel my tailbone drop down, so that real deep arch in my back starts to lengthen out over time with correct breathing. And we'll take one more round. If you need to close the eyes, just bring all of your attention to where the hands are on your body and send the breath there. And exhale out completely. The low belly will hug in, the ribs will contract to center. And we're gonna give ourselves a little hug. So we're gonna fit our hands underneath our armpits, and you can even walk it back. And when you get towards here, think about letting the breath move back and east to west. So we're tying a couple things together. As you breathe in, all directions the breath spreads. Notice if the belly starts to grip or hug in, exhale it out. Can you keep the belly relaxed as you spread the ribs back and spread them to the side? And exhale out completely. So we're going to take that in one more movement, but the movement is really simple. You can do it as you are seated. When you're breathing in, the expansion of the arms is really just going to mimic what the ribs should be doing, which is expanding when you breathe in. So we'll start with the right arm. When you start to breathe in, let the right arm come out to the side. And as you exhale and the ribs start to contract, we'll bring that right arm over towards our left shoulder. So you can see as I'm closing my rib cage, I'm rounding the back. You can take your gaze over towards the right fingertips, and we'll follow the right fingertips with our gaze as we breathe in again. Expand the ribs, expand the right arm out. The exhale starts first, and then the movement. Opposite hand to shoulder, and the hand and the gaze sticks together throughout the movement. I'll take one more round on this side. And exhale completely. And then we'll relax the right hand down on our right thigh. And we'll do the same thing with the left hand. So as you're breathing in, left hand comes out. You can kind of think about pulling or visualizing the ribs pulling and expanding with the arm as you inhale. Then exhale as the ribs start to contract. Opposite hand to shoulder, and we'll follow the fingertips with our gaze there. Noticing when you want to get ahead of your breath. Wait for the inhale to start and then let the left arm expand back out. The exhale starts first, and then opposite hand to opposite shoulder. Relax the hands down at your thighs. You can go ahead and take a couple cat-cows just to move the spine. So as you're breathing in, remember breath starts first. Slide the hands back and let the center of the chest lift up. Then keeping the shoulders stacked over the hips as you start to exhale, start the exhale from the low belly hugging up and in. The ribs will start to contract. And here is when we normally find this rounding of the back where the shoulders go way over the hips and we round the back. That can put a lot of stress on our low back. So again, keeping the shoulders over the hips, round the back. Inhale, shoulders stay over the hips as you start to lift up through the center of the heart. Notice that there's an entirely different quality to the movement when the breath starts first. So this is what we call breath-centered movement. And then before we start to develop bigger movements in our body, we want to make sure we're breathing correctly. Rounding one more time on the exhale. And then we'll come back up towards a neutral spine, so one that you feel comfortable in. Close the eyes here, and we'll just take a couple moments observing the breath that we've developed. So once you close the eyes, first give yourself permission to not be a breath professional. If you've been breathing in a reversed way your whole life, it might take more than a couple minutes to unreverse the breath. So much about breathing correctly is about learning how to get out of your breath's way. And one of the biggest ways we obstruct the breath is by gripping the abdomen. So even if all you focus on here is relaxing your belly, let that be your practice. Full exhales each time you breathe out. And then following the breath down to a low point in the rib cage. The belly's relaxed. And the belly gently draws back on the exhalation. All the way out. And this next time you draw the breath down to a low point in the ribs, maybe you feel it expand out to the side and towards the back as well. And don't be afraid to use your muscles on your exhale. And the obliques engage to fully contract the rib cage, and the low back gently hugs towards the spine. Finding a rhythm of breath that feels easy, but not complacent. And we'll just take 2 more rounds of breath. Belly stays relaxed as you draw the breath in, and it expands to the back and the sides. And starting from the low abdomen, lifting that breath up and out of your torso. Ribs contract. And if the eyes are closed, you can open the eyes back up. Okay, so let's wrap it all together. How to not breathe. Don't suck your belly in when you inhale. Or as a matter of fact, instead of telling you what not to do relax the belly when you breathe in. And on the exhale, if you're emptying something out, what would you do? You would draw it back so that it can go up and out instead of push it out, right? So when you're exhaling, low belly draws in and the ribs contract. The second step to learning how to breathe correctly, after you've developed the ability to relax the belly on the inhale and not suck it in, is learning how to keep the belly neutral so that the ribs can expand. Because over time, we don't want to develop a pure belly breath. And the one reason we don't want to develop a pure belly breath is because gravity works against us. So if we're only breathing into our belly, that takes a lot of weight down, and that can actually overstress your pelvic floor over time. Now, when we learn how to keep the belly relaxed and let the ribs expand, you get this level of what we call tensegrity, which is tension in the body with integrity. When the ribs expand, everything becomes a little bit lighter, the spine gets a little bit of traction, and your abdomen and your organs inside of your abdomen have more room to live in. Everyone's happy about that. When you exhale, there's this idea of intra-abdominal pressure where you want to lift up from the pelvic floor and draw in through the rib cage. So the spine has supports, the organs are held in place, and we're not pushing out, overstressing our pelvic floor. So you'll find over time that correct breathing helps pelvic floor health, and correct breathing helps your low back and pain in general, because as we know, when we become present in our breath and develop a long, smooth, tension-free breath, the nervous system is like, oh, hey, there's not a lion running after us. Everything seems to be okay. And then we can relax. And that's yoga, right? That's all we can ask out of our yoga practice. So I hope you found that this video was helpful. And if you have any feedback or questions about your own breath, you can always drop it in the comments. Or if you have some desire to connect with me, you can follow me on Instagram at Savannasana. I've got a webpage up there and some cool stuff on yoga therapy if you'd like to find out what that is. As always, be well. Namaste.